Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? As we stated in the first video, the welcoming video, going ahead in this course to talk about balancing relationships, both personal as well as business. Because without the two of them, you're going to have stress in something. So you have to maintain balance. So the question becomes, how do you go ahead and take care of this balance? What is it that you need to do better than you currently are? And that's getting to a point where you really start to understand who you are, especially in these changing times. So, what I feel is very important, and when people do this, they realize that it is a very strong possibility of seeing parts of themselves that they've never addressed, has to do with telling your own story to yourself and to find out where your values, strengths lie. And at the same point, what do you really think some of your strengths are when in fact they may be weaknesses? So the very first way we talk about doing this is to go ahead and ask yourself this question. From a business standpoint, would you hire you? If so, why? If not, why? And from a personal relation standpoint, would you marry you? Same question. If so, why? If not, why? As far as your friends and the circle of people that you are around, ask yourself, how long have you been with these friends? Have they all of a sudden dropped off? Is it something you did or something that changed within them that no longer correlates to your value system? More importantly, have you really identified your value system? As you know, strong values create a better life. It is more tuned into what it is you're after, and there are times when we get lost in all the craziness. And so we become stressed out and chasing what we think is important, but it takes us away from our values. So in building relationships, we have to really know who we are. We have to know our strengths and weaknesses. And more importantly, we have to make sure that we're living our true values and not just living something that's very stressful. Because there are times when we chase things and they may not be the right things to chase. They just seem important. So the first thing I like to do is to discuss with you the old phrase, when one window opens or closes, another window opens. To many of us, that really has no bearing. It's a phrase, and in today's world, especially where people are kind of locked in right now, there is no door that opens, there is no window that opens. And so where do we go? Well, back to why it's important to know yourself. So let's deal with the question of, would you hire you, or would you marry you, or would you like to be your friend? So there is a thing that we need to do in order to really address, would you hire you? If you do interviews, what are some of the key factors that you look for? Is it communication skills? Is it eye contact? Is it posture? Does it deal with the comfortability that the individual presents themselves with, but at the same time, how they come across to you? In sales, it's very important that there's a relaxing, comfortable atmosphere that this individual creates. So do you want that within yourself? Because when you see someone that doesn't line up to your values in an interview or to the company's structure, values, mission statement, you're probably finding out that this individual is nervous, maybe doesn't know the topic that well, cannot go ahead and express themselves in a logical manner, does not have a conversation, has repeated answers to what they believe the interview questions are going to be. So they can't think on their feet. If in your personal life you are that individual that you would not hire, you need to go ahead and list out all of the things that really would stop you from hiring you. What are they? I've already listed a couple of them, okay? And if you would hire you, you also need to make a list of all the reasons why you would hire you. Now, it's a known fact that if you went ahead and put a list together of all your strengths and all your weaknesses, I will guarantee you that you will find you have more weaknesses. There's more negative things about you. And when you go ahead and start to look at your strengths, the list is much shorter. So try that, because I think you're eye-opening to how many things you just don't do right in your own mind, okay? When you have that list done, take a really good look at it and then put it aside. Don't react to it, just be aware of it. And then 24 hours or 48 hours later, go back and take a look at it from a a non-emotional standpoint and really start to look at it as, is this really the qualities or the situations that are true of me, or am I just being reactionary? So if it's the interview that you're looking at, whether you would hire you or not, it's no different than going back and looking at your notes off the interview of the individual you spoke with. So what you do, quite simply, is reevaluate that individual, make sure that what you've written down actually matches up to the mental picture that you have developed of that individual and or yourself. There is something that's even more important, and that is, how do you go ahead and identify yourself from a business standpoint? Well, there's a thing called the identity theory, which I'll get into in more depth. But it deals with what is it that you really feel is important. And what is it from your past that makes you today? What have you experienced that has been a carryover? And of those things that have been carried over, how have they affected who you see yourself as? So in order to do that, and to identify some of these situations, when you look at what your number one weaknesses are, I want you to go back and talk to the 12-year-old you and ask yourself, at the 12-year-old you, what is it you would do to avoid this weakness? Now that you're aware of it at 12, what would you do to make sure that it now can become a strength, or how to avoid it? Absolutely a great exercise, because it forces you to go back and really find out who you are and why you are who you are. It's absolutely amazing when you start to identify what's made you. And a lot of times who we are today are based off other people's opinions. So who are you? Would you hire you? You have to find that out. What's even more important about all of this are the steps taken, of which I get into really strong detail as the course goes on. After all, this is just a mini course. One thing that's absolutely necessary for success is honesty. Look in a mirror and ask yourself the tough questions. Remember, you're the only one that's going to see this video, or your notes, or the questions that you ask of yourself in the mirror. Understand that if you lie to yourself, no one wins. The toughest part about identification through identity theory is to ensure that honesty is the core value, because you're not going to go anywhere. You will sit back and go, well, to me it seems fine. Why isn't it working? Something's not matching up to what your dreams are. Something's stopping you from going forward. It is critical, very critical, that as you're asking these questions, that they are not fluff questions. Right? These should be very hard, poignant questions. An example would be, all right, was it my fault that I lost my job? Or did the company just have to downsize? Notice I didn't use the word victim, because it really isn't your fault. It just is. So now you ask yourself, okay, now that the window's closed, what event that will happen in my life, currently or about to come, and can I identify it, that's going to go ahead and raise that window open? What do I need to do to actually be aware of when that opportunity comes? Or am I going to be so focused on what I don't have that I'm going to miss that opportunity? Again, that's a behavior knowing who you are. You can be proactive or you can be reactive. So when that window opens and we miss a lot of opportunities, you need to be aware, cognizant of the fact that you are deserving of this opportunity, but more importantly, the fact that you're not employed is not your fault. You had no control over payroll. You had no control over any of the things, that outside sources create for you. Unfortunately, it just is. From a personal relation standpoint, using that same type of loss of job, it's also altered things in your own life. It's altered the relationship with your family members, whether you believe it or not. It has. It's been a major change, and when you have a major change, it will affect every part of your life. So, ask yourself a very important question. How has my spouse or family and or friends reacting to how I've reacted to the situation? Because that will definitely affect how they react to you. Will they be very, very important in your support because they see you trying to be positive and be supportive and looking for the next opportunity? Or will they shy away because the negative vibe you're giving off, the why me vibe that you're giving off, will then affect them? Relationship building starts with you. You need to understand that you are the most important part of the relationships. You are the most important person about getting hired or not. You are the most important person about maintaining your relationships. And in all of this, you have to be humble, especially if you've been a supervisor of people. You have to understand that now you're in control and no one around you from a team standpoint is going to give you the feedback, because now you have to have the honest feedback with yourself. So who are you? Would you hire you? Would you marry you? Would you be your friend? What are your value systems? What's important to you? And how do they line up with your dreams? Are you aware that you need to be ready for the next opportunity that comes? There are going to be some hard things you have to do in today's world, as I do and everyone. So the question is, are you ready? Does the interior language, the dialogue that you have, allow you to go ahead and start positive steps to perhaps creating a whole new future? It's an interesting journey, or it could be a fantastic journey. I said in one of my videos what I say all the time, okay? And I like to share with you again if you haven't seen it. I'm so excited for tomorrow. Because whatever happens today, tomorrow can only be better. Can you just imagine? And if nothing great has happened today, tomorrow's got to be so much better. As a result, I'm so excited for tomorrow. I look forward to our next chat. And please take care of those exercises. Ask yourself those questions, because it's a great start. It's a foundation building exercise that will allow you to start to connect with who you are. Look forward to our next video. Thank you.